With that, ladies and gentlemen, let's begin with the next session. We are about to discuss the global insurance reset, AI, consumer trust and experience, policy and business impact. To moderate this session, I am going to invite on stage Mr. Kulin Shah, co-founder and COO on Surety. Can we have a huge round of applause for him, please? Our speakers include Mr. Sami Mahmal, Head of Data and AI Asia Pacific, Zurich Insurance Group, Mr. Stephen Chan, Group Chief Government Relations and Policy Officer, Prudential PLC, Mr. Dheepak Rajoo, Chief Information Officer, Royal Sundaram, Mr. Kiran Belsekar, Executive Vice President, Bandhan Life. Can we have a huge round of applause for all of our panelists present on the panel today? Before we begin with the session, I would like to tell all of you all that if time permits, we will be taking question and answers towards the end of the session, so make sure you jot them down. With that, over to you.
Thank you, everyone. We'll try to make this as interesting as possible. We want to give something back to you guys and make sure that you learn something new out here. We're going to structure the panel like this. You're going to do a round of introductions, and then there's going to be a questions and to the panel, and then we're going to open up for the Q&A. Quick round of introductions. Sami, you want to go first and introduce yourself?
Yeah, hello everyone. Really great to be here in Mumbai, so I don't have the luxury to come to India very often. So I'm Sami Mahmal. I'm leading the data and AI across Asia Pacific for Zurich Insurance, a European-based company that, recently acquired stakes here in India and specifically in Mumbai. So yeah, very happy to be here and see the energy we have in India.
Stephen?
Hi, I'm Stephen Chan. I look after Prudential's global government relations based in Singapore. I'm happy to be here.
Deepak.
Hi, my name is Dheepak Rajoo. I'm the Chief Information Officer for Royal Sundaram Insurance. We are a general insurance business. It's a joint venture between Sundaram Finance and AGS, which is a company based out of Belgium. Look forward to sharing my views.
Kiran.
Hey, hi, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Kiran Belsekar. I'm from Bandhan Life Insurance, erstwhile Aegon Life Insurance. So I take care of the CISO privacy and heading the tech function. Thank you.
So, we've always been talking about insurance, insurtech. I think insurtech has been the buzzword for the last few years now. But I think with the whole advent of AI, where AI is democratizing technology, there's been a movement saying that will the boundaries between insurance and insurtech, blur? And with that context, I wanted to kind of talk to Deepak first. You represent an organization, Royal Sundaram, which has been the first ever private sector, insurance company in India. And congratulations on the 25 years.
Thank you.
So with the legacy of the brand comes with the legacy of technology, right? How are you kind of embracing AI today? What are you guys doing, especially on the underwriting and claims? Because those are the two main pillars outside of distribution, right? And distribution is actually a function of good underwriting and claims. So some views from you on that.
Well, thank you. The good news is, many insurance companies don't have the kind of legacy that banking, industry does. I mean, we are a 25-year-old industry, so legacy is that much more shorter in terms of a window. I think the mandates for most CIO, CTO organizations in the BFSI space is what I call as a two-speed IT. One is just do put your head down, do the basics, make sure that you keep the ship steady. That's one part of the role. The second part is about transforming, right? Figuring out what is the legacy. Do you have technical debt? Getting rid of technical debt, embracing new technologies, making your systems and processes as digital as possible. and try and become a digital native company. So I think if you look around in GFF, you'll find most CIO, CTOs will have a hands full of doing these two, what I call as two-speed IT roles. At Royal Sundaram, like any insurance company, we use AI in two areas. And Kulin, I think you spoke about underwriting is an area where we use AI. And the other area is claims. And I'll talk a little bit about underwriting first. Typically in the insurance space, underwriting is about risk selection and price, getting the price risk strategy right. We use industry data. So Insurance Information Bureau is a very large aggregator of industry data. So the data is actually produced by the industry and consumed by the industry. A little bit of enrichment that happens by IIB, who's like acts like a fiduciary or a quasi governmental fiduciary organization in between. So what we've done is we've taken the IIB data and built an AI engine on top. Which basically just obfuscates, if I pass a parameter, I'm able to sift through about 100 different data attributes. And that gives me ability to smartly price risk on the fly. So for example, if I were to put my Honda City MH07 into a buying journey, it's able to sift through, like I said, the engine number, the chassis number, the cubic capacity, the make, the model. It's also able to give me attributes like what was the consumer's previous year insurance, what was the no-claim bonus that was declared, so we're able to weed out any soft frauds intentionally or unintentionally by the consumer. So that ability of using AI to be able to price risk on the underwriting is fairly well established in the industry. Almost every insurance company uses this data by default. On the claims side, we work with a startup based out of Bangalore. It's a computer vision company. They do what's called as a large vision model. Like your large language model, there's a large vision model. They run through about 20 billion parameters. They have trained their model on about 400 to 500 million customer verified images. We've taken the model and adopted it to our environment, right? So when you introduce AI to the field, you always introduce it as an apprentice. So therefore, there is, there is no resistance. So we used AI as an apprentice to our claim handler, and they're able to use the vision to be able to assess a damage. The good part about this, the model per se, is that it is surface agnostic. So the vision is able to clearly demarcate what is a damage. And the damage can be a simple scratch or a bump on the dent, or it could be a hairline crack. And it could be on any part of the, any body part of the car. It could be on the bonnet, it could be on the boot, it could be on the door, it could be on the surface, a bumper. And AI is able to, clearly mark out the anomaly with real precision. And these are two areas where we use AI, which significantly reduces our, costs, as well as provides the digital ability for an end consumer or an intermediary.
Amazing. I like what you've mentioned out here that soft fraud detection happens, and I think that's what consumers are kind of also afraid of, right? Especially that 1% or 2% who try to figure out the hustle and, like they call it in India, the jugaad to kind of get an insurance. Talking about consumers, soft frauds, Kiran, life insurance, right? It's basically a place where you need to know so much about someone, right? You need to underwrite right from the person to the lifestyle that they have, right? How do you maintain a balance, right? How do you reassure the customer that yes, while you're using AI to underwrite them, right? You can still kind of reassure them that yes, you're doing it the right way. You have some thoughts on that?
Yeah, so for life insurance, trust is like a bedrock for us. So it depends how you use it. It can, so for us, the AI can enforce it, or either it can erode the trust as well. So it actually depends upon how are the organizations using it. On the positive side, AI helps in terms of from an underwriting, as Deepak said, in terms of getting the faster processing of the cases from the insurance policies. Even you look at from the human biases perspective, making the underwriting more, like reducing the subjectivity, getting more objectivity into it. And also helps in terms of detecting the anomalies in terms of the fraud perspective as well. So in short, it actually benefits both insurers as well as the customers' point of view. But the concerns around the fairness, the inclusiveness, I think on the data misuse is a real concern. And that's where the regulations now, which is coming in now, whether it's an EU AI Act or India's DPDP Act, is really putting a lot of controls on how do you use the data, ensuring there is a fairness and the decision makings. It's become an explainable from point of view as well. If you look at using an AI, specifically in an insurance space, if you look at any self-employed individual for that matter, he does not have a formal salary slips. So which becomes that he's not able to serve in terms of from an insurance policy perspective. Because of the, but looking at an AI for that matter, getting his financial behavior from that or all the digital footprints, that really helps in terms of getting the underwriting more fairer. So in such ways, in terms of these are certain use cases which can really help, and it has really helped in terms of getting more and more inclusiveness, as well as in terms of getting the people who are underserved. We are able to cover them as well. And obviously, the message is from Mr. PM as well in terms of getting inclusiveness, insurance for all by 2047, I think, and also the recent reforms we have seen. I think it is moving towards those.
I really echo with you, Kiran, because as Onsurety also, right, we are India's first SME-focused platform, and this is exactly what we also do, right? How do we kind of look at multiple variables, like you also mentioned, Deepak, to kind of get SMEs under the, employee health insurance net. So zooming out a little bit, Sami, coming to you, you have a very, nice global perspective, right, as a part of the Zurich group, especially in Asia. I'm assuming that you guys are doing a lot of work on technology and AI, and these are very interesting times for you. But there's always a problem, right? Can AI create a FOMO that I'm going to try to solve so many use cases that I'm not able to solve one use case properly? So are there any scalable use cases that you are solving at Zurich which are going to really create an impact? Or what's the AI strategy for Zurich today?
Yeah, thanks, Colin. So I think that's, you mentioned FOMO. I think that's really the word in everyone's mind now and for the leadership, like what are we doing on AI? The interesting part, and Deepak and Kiran were just touching base on it, so AI has not been invented with ChatGPT. AI did not come 3 years, 4 years ago. Actually, AI has been here for a while. So the use case that was shared around underwriting, actually we've been playing us insurers with AI for a while. So you were asking, and I will actually even put it in two families. So there is the classic AI, I would call it, machine learning AI. And then you have the generative AI and the large vision models, the LLMs, which are more known to the public. So what really has changed is that a couple of years ago, and I'd say decades ago, the classic AI was an expert play. In order to get value from AI, you had to be an expert, you had to have the right data, the right scale, which actually cut a lot of players out of the market, and actually some organizations were actually able to make some good and some value out of it. What has really changed is really with the the arrival of the large language models, is that with the classic AI, you have to train your models. You need the data, the infrastructure, the technical skills, to train your own models. Now, with generative AI, well, everyone here, I assume, is consuming already an out-of-the-box LLM model. Will it be Claude? Will it be ChatGPT, OpenAI, the latest versions, and so on. So I think that's really what has changed, and that lowered the entry barrier. Then now everyone is playing with AI, and now everyone want to do something with AI because it seems much more interesting. So I think that's, just wanted to share on that. So we have a lot of use cases that are more on classic machine learning, and there were some examples on how we use it for claims processing. We do the same here in India to inspect the vehicles. When you want to issue your motor policy with us, Zurich Insurance Kotak, you have to take pictures of your car, and then we say, well, all good, we do an automated underwriting, you can proceed, here is your policy issued, thank you. And you don't have to get formally a surveyor to come and check all of the issues. So that I'll put still this in the classic AI category. Now, and I'm coming back maybe to the topic of customer experience. What's one of the topics that is really close to my heart and touching on the customer experience that was very difficult before and now is much more accessible with generative AI is processing the large amount of audio records, chats, emails to better understand our customers. So we insurers are, well, relying on our distribution, our AI, our agents. So how can we use AI to better understand our customers? So today at Zurich Insurance, one of the ways that we try to do that is we process all of the communications that we have with our customers. We process the chat, the emails, the feedbacks that when you raise the claim and then you say, well, I'm happy with this process, or I'm unhappy with this process because of why, and then you submit and you rank it 1, 2. Yesterday, it required, well, a lot of people to go and try to make sense of it. Now, with generative AI, we can literally feed all of that information and we say, okay, what is the biggest pain point our customers are having today? So this completely changed the paradigm on how we can address the challenges from a customer perspective. Is it gaps in terms of benefits? Is it problems from a process because we are very slow? We can, and then imagine what would be the way around it, like automating the extraction of the data so we can fast track the process. So maybe that's one example of, gives a perspective on how we can use generative AI to really unlock much more insights. But there are a lot more, but I'll pause there.
Yeah. Sure. Interesting you say about claims because we've done something similar. We've actually fed all our conversations, all data, and now we are able to kind of do a quality check on calls without using external tools anymore. And we save close to about 200K to 300K of fraudulent health claims on our platform. But that comes to you, Stephen. You had a very, very interesting background, right? Not many people out here know, so I'm going to say it. You've been on the government side, and then you've been on the wealth side, then you've been on the payment side, and now you're on the last leg of insurance side, right? Wanted to understand from you, because you obviously have a large footprint in India too, from the life insurance and AMC part of it. You talk to regulators, regularly. How are regulators looking at AI? How are regulators, especially in the Indian context, how do you kind of see a difference between, and I'm not putting you in a spot out here, but international regulators versus Indian regulators, if you can even throw some light on that, that would be good to hear from you.
Great. For those of you who may not be familiar with Prudential PLC, we're a UK company with a long legacy, 177 years. With we opened our first office in India about 100 years ago. And in about 40 years ago, we sponsored the famous World Cup, where people remember Prudential. Here in India, we do have 2 large business. We have 2 joint ventures with ICICI on the life side and on the asset management side. And recently, we announced that we will start a new health business with a JV with HCL. And so this is a very exciting time for us in India. In terms of the global regulatory landscape, maybe I'll make my comments on 2 folds, one at the global level and then one on the Indian context. In my role, I cover globally for Prudential in 24 markets in Asia and in Africa, as well as I have a team in the UK as well. We're listed there. Now, at the global level, although Sami is right, AI has been around for quite a while. However, regulations have not caught up until recently, in recent years. About 2 to 4, 5 years ago, it started with AI regulations and framework that are principle-based to now shifting to AI regulations and frameworks risk-based. Now, what does that mean? When we talk about principle-based, it's more around how AI can foster innovation, trustworthiness, and can protect human rights. It's more voluntary, guiding companies to develop products based on those principles. Now, in recent years, we have experienced AI much more integrated, not only in business, but in our daily lives. Maybe it's a very small part in what you do right now. They are also creating some trust and some confidence issue, right, with scams and et cetera, and also a lot of cybersecurity challenges. Regulators now are really focusing on AI from a risk base. Now, what does that mean? Now, we have seen regulations coming up in Europe and just a week ago in California in the United States, where now AI are focusing on around costs of not protecting data, making sure that AI usage is transparent, the models are being used that are regulatable, supervisable. And so there's a number of now AI supervisor regulations that are risk mitigation based. And so I've seen that in Europe, that has come up now in 2024, the EU Act. We have seen in the US, the California AI regulations that will be leading the way in the US. We've seen some part in Asia now. Singapore, for example, have an AI governance framework that financial services have to follow. We're seeing in China, the Bank of China have created some AI guidance for their regulated entities. In India, it's now developing quite fast. 2 years ago, the government issued an India AI mission, which really tried to create more an AI robust ecosystem. We've also seen regulators such as RBI, SEBI, and IRDAI are embedding AI in some of the risk management practices and supervisory guidance. Just, I think, last month, or maybe coming up, the government, MITI, will be issuing an AI governance framework that will be laying the foundation for various AI development in the country here. And so it's moving quite rapidly, and we've seen now this shift to more really risk-based lens, which now creates a compliance requirement, data privacy, transparency, etc.
We're going to go to the audience. How many of you use AI today? Questions, I'll come back to you, sir, after this. But how many of you guys use AI today? Okay. How many of you use AI beyond emails and image creation? Great. And how many of you are aware of something known as the MCP part of AI now? Yeah, I think that's the homework for you guys. Read about MCP. It's going to really help your organizations to create a stitch the stack, right? Your AI stack. My next round of question, Deepak, to you. You mentioned about underwriting being a big part of the journey at RS, right? Royal Sundaram. Looking ahead, right? Beyond underwriting, right? Where do you see any other part of the organization really ripe where you can actually use AI, and how do you kind of create that balance between computers and the human touch? Because insurance, unlike other things, wants that human touch when it comes to claims, right? That's the moment of truth of the industry. So how does AI play a role, and what part of the organization?
I think, two areas that is very ripe for AI disruption. One definitely is distribution, and the other one is servicing, and both using open networks, which is what we are seeing in as a trend that's evolving. It happened with the National Health Exchange, which took a leaf out of what happens in UK and Dubai and other parts of Middle East. I think it's something that is built by the industry for the industry. There is another initiative which is also being built by the industry for the industry called Bima Sugam. I think in GFF you will hear more about what Bima Sugam is trying to do for insurance. We're trying to create the possibly the UPI moment. And Bima Sugam, for the uninitiated, is a multi-sided marketplace where all the ecosystem players, whether it's a consumer or an intermediary or an insurance company or a third party, can come on to a single platform and distribute. And it's not just a price game. It's not a price comparison website. There are lots of intrinsic parameters like what's our claim settlement ratio, what's our claim repudiation rate, what's our, as an insurance company, ability to service end consumers. And it provides these rankings, basis which consumers will be able to make good choices about what insurance company they want to go with. So that's definitely one area that I can see. There are already plans that have been chalked out by the industry, and like you mentioned, Steve, it has significant regulatory oversight, which means that we can't miss the bus. We got to be there when the regulator asks for it. What will happen to the consumer is that the acquisition costs will reduce. Our ability to service consumers will be much cheaper. With AI infused in some of these marketplaces from an approach perspective. The other area that I can see is faster checkouts. Like we have e-commerce, we will have insurance that is going to be embedded as part of a fast checkout journeys, where you won't even realize that you're actually buying insurance, right? So, you buy a plane ticket, you put a check mark, and that there's personal accident that's coming covered. I was trying to book a pickleball court for a few of my friends. I used an app. I don't want to name the app, but the app actually gave me like an 8 rupee bodily injury cover. It was embedded at the point of checkout, and I booked the pickleball court because I know on the wrong side of 40s, the hard courts don't really are friendly to your knees, so you do need bodily injury cover. But that is the moment where consumers are going to buy insurance. That's going to be like the UPI moment where a simple checkout and you have insurance that is already embedded. It's happening for us. Like we are one of the largest distributors of non-mandatory IRCTC insurance. So if you buy an IRCTC train ticket, you have 1 in a third of a chance that the opt-in insurance is actually insured by Royal Sundaram, where you get personal accident and bodily injury cover. So that's the way I see, distribution, claim servicing, or generally customer servicing, and costs are going to significantly come down. Important element is keeping the human in the loop. Right? Every time you're at the hospital and somebody's trying to settle and get a discharge summary, you do want to talk to a human being, man. It's not going to be AI driven or machine learning driven or algorithmic rules. Those are important, but when it comes to large losses, complex losses, you can never take away the wisdom and the human intelligence and the human empathy. I think if we were to borrow what Kiran says, if we need insurance for all by 2047, we need as much as artificial intelligence as human intelligence and human wisdom.
Interesting. Transparency, reducing your cost of acquisition, large losses, emotional, interactions. That comes to you, Kiran. People have generally seen insurance as a way that you can make money by doing the right risk protection, right? But I think with the whole AI advent, people are talking about lifetime value. Right, would love to hear your thoughts, especially coming from a life insurance company, right? How do you look at creating more lifetime value with a customer?
So AI enables the life insurers to evolve from the risk protectors to, I would say, a lifelong partners in the well-being. I think that's where the transitions we are seeing from the insurers, life insurance specifically. And though the hyper-personalized, experience we are talking about in terms of chatbots or the predictive models, this is really going to help the customers in the every life stage, whether it is in terms of from the health or getting in financial tips from the planning perspective or from a support perspective as well. So I think AI is going to stay relevant in each and every stage of the customer life cycle. And we have also seen fintechs showing a very good path for the insurers specifically in terms of the seamless customer experience, in terms of journey, the way the language is being spoken about. I think it is really giving an experience in terms of how the life insurance can also be a frictionless, effortless, and more personalized as well. I think that's where the insurers are looking forward, learning from the fintechs. It's like even in the insurance space, if you really look at a consumer receiving an alert in terms of doing a health check basis the wearables data or basis the lifestyle inputs. I think that's where we are talking about, and it's not about the risk, but it is also talking about the care which the life insurance is really trying to bring, and it's like a continuous engagement. Insurance in that specific matter, it's not only about renewals, but such small nudges really makes the continuous engagement throughout the journey. Otherwise, it becomes an annual journey. And this is also, again, coming back to the DPDP Act as well. Obviously, this personalization has to be fair and also largely consent-driven as well. I think these are the couple of things which we are looking around, which really makes insurance more than an insurance policy, because that's where it's not only about selling policies, but also concerning about the well-being of the customers. And that's where the trust and loyalty naturally starts.
Yeah, I think well said, because even at Onsurety, one of the things that we guys are doing is that fact that we actually have so much of data about the user, right? That we are actually able to drive back hyper-personalized offerings to them, right? If you know that someone is married, you can actually create plans for them, which is more inclusive from a family definition perspective, versus someone who's young, then giving them the right products, which are more lifestyle driven, right? So those kind of use cases that we are seeing when we kind of want to create a lifetime value. Sami, coming to you, using AI is interesting because there's an ambition to kind of drive efficiency, drive more, cost efficiencies, right? The ambition is that, but then comes with a lot of responsibility, especially from a regulation perspective, from a compliance perspective, from a trust perspective. How do you balance the both, right? What are your thoughts on that? How do you kind of manage, ambition and at the same time responsibility as an insurer?
No, that's a question that's animating a lot of discussions, obviously, for us insurers, and how do we balance that act? So, first of all, we have data commitments with our customers on how they can entrust us with the data and how we can make a good use in true transparency of their data. That's all. That's our 5 data commitments, all publicly shared. So we make sure that we keep the data of our customers secure. We don't use it for what was not the initial intent. So all of that, we are quite transparent with it, and we have a central team working in Europe. And the question earlier to Stephen around how to balance the different regulations. So in Europe, the regulation were a bit more ahead on this exercise. They started with their guidelines even before ChatGPT on what was the AI framework. So we have a central team that's make sense of all of that to see what it would mean for Zurich as a group, so that we can stand by our commitment. That I would say like the foundation, making sure that our customer data is secured, and we have clear commitment on how we utilize that data in order to generate value for our customers. Then comes, well, obviously the localization, because the regulation between France, Switzerland are not the same as between India or even Singapore. So I think that that's another layer that we account for when we look at the different use case. And actually, I would say that we have one generic approach around our data commitment for our customers that stands for Zurich as a brand. And then we have a use case-based approach around how do we manage the risk of the AI risk. There is a question on when can we let AI make its own decision, or should we have someone in the loop? Well, there is no generic answer. The answer is it depends. If you have a use case where you're just extracting data for paperwork and validating the ID of the customer with OCR is AI. Do you need a human in the loop? Well, I may challenge, coming back to the cost factor, I can challenge it. But if you had maybe even paying a claim, low ticket claim for the customer, do you still need someone to be in the loop? Well, that's something that's the beginning of the debate. And then we have much more complex decisions, underwriting decisions that will define the health insurance value for a customer, life insurance value for a customer. Then, well, we start coming to an area where you definitely want to have someone in the loop. So that balancing act, we have a framework which is more use case driven. Depending on what you're trying to achieve, then we will look back and say, well, actually, these are the risks that you'll get along in the process, and maybe we need to add more oversights here. And that comes back to one of the topics that Deepak was saying earlier around the transformation. We don't want to slow down the AI innovation across the company. We want to be more pragmatic around it. So we stand with our data commitment with our customer, and we make sure that we are really pragmatic on how we assess the risk so that we don't slow down anything that's touching AI.
Interesting. Stephen, my last question to you is, a regulator always wants, people to kind of, or the companies or organizations to kind of, self-regulate them, right? How do you see insurers playing a role, especially in the insurtech space or in the insurance space, from a self-regulation or having self-regulation organizations or building ethical AI frameworks, right? Where do you see organizations playing a role, especially insurance companies?
Yeah, so if you think about financial regulations in the past 10 years, there has been a number of disruptions, and regulations have always tried to catch up with those disruptions. Banking on the wealth side, Fintech came about, and before the pandemic, no one could ever envision, having a digital bank with no actual presence, right? I mean, it's really hard to even imagine how do you regulate that. And in payments, you have crypto, right? Digital currencies, a cryptocurrency that no intrinsic value except for supply and demand. How do you regulate that? And then now in the insurance space, where you have vastly, rapidly growing AI technologies that are embedded in many different aspects of the whole entire insurance journey. From a Prudential perspective, for example, we launched an AI lab in Singapore early this year, and already we have about 180 use cases, all the way from customer onboarding, customer service, product development, claims, and payments. And so it's really hard for regulations to really capture and regulate companies when the technology is moving so fast. And so what does that mean? What does it mean that for organizations like ours, that we're actually driving and pioneering a lot of AI development into our operations and products, there has to be some standards that we have to set for the sector and industry itself. And so from a Prudential perspective, for example, ethical AI is a very critical component on how we think through an AI framework. And so what does that mean? When we embed AI right now in some part of our company, we have to make sure that the data that we use are unbiased, making sure that we protect data privacy, making sure that we have right governance framework in there so that when data transfer across border, that there are regulations that are met. These standards don't exist right now. In Singapore, there are strong kind of AI governance framework, but in other jurisdictions, they are evolving and developing. And so I think it's important for global companies, have to set these standards within ourselves, but also make sure that for the sector as well, because we have to protect customers like you right now that are using our products, and that there are some certain trust and confidence that you have in our companies, in our products that we have, and that in the entire sector as a whole.
Thanks so much, Stephen. We're going to conclude the panel, but just one last thought for all of you guys out here, that AI is going to basically make the insurance space up from a push industry to a pull industry, because we're going to kind of democratize a lot of the value chain out here. And think about it, that even with human beings being so afraid of their future and risk, we still don't buy insurance products willingly. Hopefully AI will change that. Hopefully there's a reset of insurance out here for the next generation. And with that, we open up for a couple of questions from the audience. We have about 3 minutes left. Yeah. If you can.
Hello. So my name is Yogesh, and my question is to Sami. Sami, you have covered very well the entire AI space as far as insurance industry is concerned. However, I still personally feel that in insurance we are far behind the AI implication use cases as compared to other industries. Even with the banking, we are far behind, right? Now we are having that classical or traditional use cases like claims and underwriting. Why we are not taking that quantum leap of in this agentic AI era, we are still with the traditional and the classic models. What prevents us, number one? And can you just share with us, for the benefit of for us, that elsewhere in the world, how the insurance companies, where they are placed and where the insurance companies in India are placed as far as this agentic AI implementation, preparedness, and willingness to adopt it. So I am talking about transformation per se, not just because AI happens to be the buzzword, everybody is trying to just leverage it in piecemeals. So it's a long question, but I think this was something which was bothering me since long.
Thank you. I think that's on the pace that us insurers are moving. I think that's, I'm also very critical on some of the aspects that we can do a lot more. Like we are in the business of managing data, of processing data and pricing risk. So we should know better on how to use the data. So that's actually what I'm saying to my leadership on how we can raise the bar. Now, I think that first, maybe I'll start with the last part of your question around India. The tech that you have here in India available. I'm actually working with a lot of Indian startup. Before even we entered the Indian market, I was working with a lot of Indian startup to consume AI product for entities. For Indonesia, we rolled out an AI vision model for assessing the cars, and we did. I'll not give all of the example, but just to say that from a tech space, India is really rich in terms of solution that can be embedded to insurers. Insurers don't have to invent or reinvent the wheel. They can just consume the service and embed it the right way into the customer journey. Now, coming back to the other question around, and you touched base on the AI agentic part. So I can share some of the example that we're doing, but maybe the question is less about the tech, because I just elaborated that the tech is here, and even here in India. So the tech is available, and with LLM, startups are building more and more AI solution that can be just embedded quite easily for the business. Now, the big challenge, and one of the comments was made earlier by Deepak to say, well, part of the company is doing the business, and another part of the company needs to think about how to change the way we are doing things. And I think that maybe the main message is more to the leadership. Like, you cannot change the way you improve, you challenge your business if you are keeping it the same BAU way without raising the aspiration. So in Zurich Insurance, we have two ways of driving innovation. We have more of a bottom-up approach where we give access to our AI assets and we let everyone within the company play in a safe environment and with the right frameworks and regulation in place so that they can play in a safe way. We see a lot of small use cases emerge here and there and a lot of exciting topics. But all of those topics will still remain iterative because you cannot change the whole organization. You can just play and improve the process by 10%, 15%, and the best in class will have a bigger impact. But if you really want to change the way that you're operating your business, it takes leadership, it takes bold tries, and assuming as well the errors, because we'll not succeed in every try. So I think that that's really the main message. If you raise the aspiration, I'm sure that you have the tech talent to go and apply it. And AI agentic is just one way of doing it. And I didn't want to jump into an example that where we are building AI agent, but we were able to bring that topic because our leaders said, let's try to crack this problem. And the answer to that problem was AI agentic and nothing else.
I would have loved to go for one more question, but we are in GFF and we are sticklers for time. So that's the end of the panel. You can catch hold of all of us outside of the room, and I will end the panel now.
Exactly. And I do understand that we all have questions that we want to ask, and I'll encourage you, like Mr. Shah just mentioned, to take up those questions informally. For now, I want all of you to please put your hands together for our entire panel. I think it was a very, very interesting discussion and very beautifully and in an engaging manner moderated by Mr. Shah.